Hey guys, my name is Matt, and I want to tell you about my experience buying a Ferrari. Now, this video isn't what I wanted to make. Ideally, I wanted to buy this car, make some flashy, cool video, and then share my experience on what it's like to own something like this and how much fun it is and the passion behind it and all that stuff. But unfortunately, this video isn't about that. So I had bought a car from CNC Motors in Upland, California, and I do not have that car in my possession. I also don't have the title or registration in my possession. And I bought this car in January, January 13th to be exact, I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah. I wanted to make sure I have all my paperwork and everything so I can be as accurate as possible. Let me tell you what it's like. Gosh, I woke up January 13th and I knew it wasn't going to be a day like any other in my life. This was a day I've been waiting for. Actually, in fact, let me back up just a little bit and kind of tell you how this transaction started. I had a very rough 2020. The pandemic hit my company very hard. I own a media production company in Northern California, and March rolled around and I was nervous, but we had just moved into a big new studio and office, and I'm, over the moon excited. This was January of last year. And then, when the pandemic hit, we were doing most of our videos and photos about events, and we had to really switch gears. And unfortunately, I had to refund a ton of deposits. Now, the reason I bring that up is because when you do business like this, you typically have contracts, and people will sign like a non-refundable 50% deposit down. But I knew as a business owner, hoping that the pandemic would just be a very short-lived thing, that if I refunded everybody, even though I wasn't obligated to, I wanted to in hopes that they would come back to me, because I need business. I mean, that's how we survive, and I really love what I do. So anyways, I had to take out a really large loan and pay everyone back. Now, thank goodness, things started happening around June of last year to where we were able to work within the pandemic guidelines or the CDC guidelines. And, so we were masked and being socially distant and everything. And but so I saw the money coming back in, and I was super excited. I was able to pay that loan back. But unfortunately, I was rendered how do you say it? I was rendered useless. No, I was on this one wheel thing one day in July, and the wheel stopped, and I ended up falling and breaking my, right arm and leg, and I was just in horrible, horrible shape. And it forced me to learn how to work from the hospital bed and how to kind of direct people and hire more contractors and figure out how to do this while I'm like super injured and not even knowing if I could walk again. And so anyways, thankfully I recovered, and I'm walking again. I'm able to pick up stuff and write. So all is good. Anyways, I was able to keep the business going and going. And then finally, like November, like from October to December, we were rocking and rolling, and I was like, this is it. I swear, if I can end at a certain number this year, I'm buying a Ferrari. And I did. I reached out to CNC Motors in Upland, California, and we sort of worked out a deal. It was a little interesting how the whole thing went down. I was working with this one salesperson. I won't mention names, but it wasn't quite the customer service experience that I thought buying this type of car would be. And, I'd done my research with CNC Motors, and they seemed like a very, very legitimate, major contributor to the supercar sales world. They're a consignment shop, and people will sell their vehicles, to people like me through them. And so their cars are, on the showroom floor. It looks beautiful there. And anyways, I started talking to my salesperson. I think it was like the weekend like the 9th, January, 9th. It was a Saturday that he called me. And he's like, well, Matt, I heard you are interested in this one Ferrari. It's a Ferrari 360 Modena, 2000, 41,000 miles on it. And it's red with the tan interior, the exact car I wanted. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. My credit is good at the moment. I got, some money in the bank account. Now's the time or never. And so he's like, okay, great. Well, just wire us the money and then, we'll figure out, how we can get it to you or whatever. I go, well, okay, I do want to fly there and then pick it up and drive it home. But I can, probably wire you the money on Monday. And he goes, oh, okay. And it just seemed like, kind of weird. Like they just needed the money like right away. And that, should have been maybe my first clue. And so then I was like, well, whatever. I went to my credit union on Monday. I wired them $16,500. And so I was like, okay, that should be good enough to put the car on hold. He goes, well, why don't you just wire the whole amount? And I was like, well, I want to see the car before, paying full for it and everything. So I go, let me just fly there. I'm going to have a cashier's check. And then, I'll pick it up once it all checks out. He goes, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. And so I'm like, oh man, I'm so excited. I booked my flight and I flew there Wednesday morning on the 13th of January, 2021. And boy, I had never been like going to sleep every night knowing that I was buying this car, and then finally like the morning of like getting ready, knowing that I'm going to go on this plane and pick up my dream baby. I couldn't sleep. I haven't been this excited since I was probably like 10 years old before Christmas. So like to invoke that in like a 39-year-old guy, this is a big purchase. I mean, this is more important than buying my house, in my opinion, in terms of an emotional buy. Anyways, so I fly there. It's a clear, beautiful day. I get there maybe like around 11:30 or something like that, and greeted by the salespeople. Everyone was super nice. Beautiful showroom. They had cool coffee. I was just over the moon. And so anyways, he goes, okay, well, yeah, do you have the cashier's check? I'm like, oh, yeah, here you go. And then they were like pulling the car in, and I was so excited. And I'm like, okay, this is great. And so I signed, my life away. And I was like, okay, like, this is great. I'm here we go. And so I drove it home. And when I was driving it home, I was just, I can't believe it. I'm behind the wheel of a dang Ferrari. And so I was like, I was kind of too scared to even go that fast. I know they're built for it and they can do it, but I'm like, I just got this thing. I don't want to ruin it. I'm like babying it. And so I don't even think go over like 75 on the way home. And so then, but I noticed it was kind of weird. Like I'd be in 6th gear and then it would pop out, like it'd go into neutral and then like flash. Well, I haven't owned one of these cars before. And so I was like, maybe this is like a safety feature, like I don't know. I'm talking myself into whatever problem is happening. It's good. It's good. It's a Ferrari. I mean, they're supposed to do that. They're quirky, right? Well, so I get home and maybe close to midnight or something like that. And I'm just sitting in my garage, just looking at this thing like, wow, I can't believe this is mine. And, not to foreshadow, but maybe it's not mine. Who knows? But we'll get into that in a second. So then I call up the dealer the day after. Yeah, it was like a Thursday. And I was like, hey, is it supposed to do that? I'm like, no. I go, well, there's a mechanic in town. I'm friends with this guy. He was president of the Ferrari club in my area. And he recommends this shop. What do you guys think? And he goes, yeah, we're looking at that. We're trying to contact them. And why don't you just take it there? Let's have it diagnosed and see. And I was like, okay. And I go, man, I wasn't prepared for like a crazy expensive repair bill like the day after getting this. So I'm a little worried, like what's going to happen? I signed this like as is, no warranty thing. And so I go, I don't know what to do. Don't worry, Matt. We're going to take care of you. We're going to take care of you. Wow. Okay. Like, geez, thank you. Because I'm like, I don't want my first Ferrari experience to be soured, but then again, I understand some things happen or whatever. So anyways, I drop it off to the local Ferrari mechanic here, and he was looking at it and found some things, and he goes, oh yeah, maybe a speed sensor and maybe this or that. And so anyways, oh, and I failed to mention that it was the next day, as I was even like driving it there, it was shifting like super weird, like in between first and second, it would go into neutral, or just like randomly go into neutral as I'm driving. And I knew like, okay, this is a safety thing. Like this is not, I mean, it's a safe, what I mean? It's like a safety hazard, basically. I can't be driving this thing. I need to take it to the shop. And so anyways, I do, and he thought it was this or that. I tell you, I was so anxious this whole time because I'm like, I just got this car. I went through hell in 2020. Like, this is my one thing that like could almost, even it out. Like, it was just so bad that I'm like, this is my treat. This is my reward. I made it. Anyways. And so then it's in his shop for a while, like a few weeks go by, and communication's kind of spotty here and there with everyone. So I was like, well, these things are expensive. They take time to diagnose or something. I'm trying to be patient, trying to give everyone the benefit of the doubt here. But then like months go by, and then finally, what was it? It was about a month and a half goes by, and he goes, Matt, your gearbox, what happened was the heat exchanger broke, and then put like water or coolant into the gearbox. And then that's why it was shifting really weird. So I was like, oh boy, that sounds expensive. And he goes, yeah, the heat exchanger thing, that's one part, but the gearbox, I mean, I believe new, those things are like close to $18,000. And I mean, I just blew all my money on a Ferrari. I don't have 18 grand to fix a little thing here. And so, I need to kind of wait a year or two before something crazy goes wrong. But anyways, so I don't really hear anything from anybody at that point. And another week goes by, and it sounds like, CNC didn't want to, I don't know what's going on. Like, I mean, one person's talking to the other. I'm getting like half stories. And so basically, I don't know. What happened was the day I was supposed to be on a really large production, we do a three-way call. That's right. We do a three-way call between the salesperson, myself, and the mechanic down the street from here. And instantly it just got super hostile. I mean, they're like cussing each other out, and I'm like stuck in the middle of this. Like, I just want my car. Like, I don't want to ruffle too many feathers, because it's like, I just want this thing fixed, and I am hoping that CNC honors their word and, pays for it. But it sounds like after that call, they don't want to do anything with this guy here in town. So they offer to pick up the car, and they sent a truck over to pick it up and then take it back to Upland, and then they're going to diagnose it and then fix it. I'm like, all right, just another couple of weeks, right? Like, maybe. Finally, the truck arrives. We get it in there, and it's sort of in pieces at this point. Like, the bumper's off and stuff, but it's, movable. So we get it in the truck. It gets shipped there. A few days later, it's at the dealer. I hear nothing from them. I got an email, or no, I tracked the delivery to make sure that it got there okay. But I never got any kind of confirmation from anybody or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, they're probably pretty busy. Give them a few days and then follow up. So I do. And I still don't actually hear anything from them. I was like, okay, I'm a little worried. I sent a few texts, a few voicemails, some emails. And then finally, after the salesperson is being really short with me on these texts, I just went directly to the service manager, Casey. Now, Casey, every email I've gotten from him has been very professional, very kind. He has had some excuses that he said really aren't his fault nor my fault, but they are what's happening right now. And what he said was some employees had left the service department and they're very, very short-staffed. Please be patient. He apologizes. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm trying to be patient, but man, like now we're 3 months into this and I'm like, okay. And then I give him like about a week or so. And then I email and I don't hear anything. And then email again, I don't hear anything. And then finally he gets back to me and good news. And not only good news, but he's taking photos and video of the repairs. And he goes, Matt, we replaced the heat exchanger and these things. So we're going to, I can't remember if it was just the heat exchanger or not. I'll have to go into the emails. But he goes, so what we're going to do is flush the gearbox. And that should take care of the shifting problem. If we get all the coolant and water out of there and get it back to where it needs to be, it should work. And I was like, okay, fingers crossed, right? So he sends me a video and the wheels going and I'm like, wow, it's working. And he goes, yeah, and it's shifting. But tomorrow we want to take it on a little bit of an extended road test. So just to make sure before we give it back. Okay, I am so excited. And this is about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So the middle of March is when I get this. And I don't hear anything back the next day. And I was like, okay, just don't freak out, Matt. Just like, I'm sure it's fine. They're just tweaking something. Here I am, the forever optimist, right? On this crazy expensive purchase, crazy emotional purchase. And meanwhile, these last 3 months, I've just been so depressed over it. Like, I just can't believe all this is happening. Anyways, so I had noticed also that, by the way, around the same time, a couple of weeks ago or so, maybe a month ago, I got a letter from my bank saying that they had never received the title and to contact them and see what's going on. So I contact the sales department, the finance manager. I contact the finance manager. I emailed her. And then I never heard anything back. I let her know, hey, my bank never got the title. Can you follow up? What's going on with the DMV stuff? And by the way, I also don't have my registration. And it's not like it matters at the moment because I'm not driving it and it's not even in my garage. But that should have come by now. So I found it kind of weird. So I followed up with a couple phone calls and I never got a response back from them about that. I go, well, whatever. I'll deal with it when the car is back in my garage and I have the patience to. So, and I have a feeling this is kind of what they do with people. All of this is about buying time with whatever clients that they have. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. And I'm kind of freaking out about the road test. I hope it's shifting okay. And I get a bad email saying, hey, it didn't pass. It's still shifting weird. And we're going to try and mess with the transmission. And if that doesn't work, I mean, it's going to need a new gearbox. Okay. So I said, all right, that sucks, but what am I going to do? So anyways, I emailed a couple days later. I go, hey, what's the status with that? And nothing, right? Of course, so then, by the way, CNC has never been proactive about reaching out to me without me bugging them a little bit. And I just found that kind of weird. I bought many cars over my lifetime, maybe 30 to 35 cars. And I just never had this kind of an experience with a private party or a dealer. And so I was like, man, this is just horrible customer service, but I want my car back. And so I'm trying to be nice. And I think that's what they bet on is people just trying to not ruffle any feathers because they all want their car or they want their money. Then I saw that Normal Guy. Blah, blah. Then I saw that Normal Guy Supercar had posted a video about CNC Motors fraud or something, and I watched it, and this guy named Shane was like telling my whole story, how his Ferrari got wrapped up in like all these many months of service and the same kind of communication, and but his story was slightly different in terms of like what happened with him. Well, I'll post the original video in the description below, but to sum it up, what happened to him is the guy who was using CNC motors to sell his car via consignment gave it to them. CNC sold his car, kept the money, and then the guy still had his title. Somebody else has his Ferrari, and so now there are two banknotes on one car, and it's this like massive like fraud type thing. And I was like, am I involved in that? Like, could I possibly own somebody else's car whom they've never gotten paid for? And then watching all this unfold over the internet, I mean, I think that's what's happening. Now, you know, I hope to be proved wrong. I hope all this is going to go away. But what it sounds like is, what's his name? Clay over at CNC Motors. He's using the excuse as saying, and I'll post that, his comments below, that he made a reply to Normal Guy Supercars video. But what it sounds like is he's just wanting time from everybody, and he's apologetic. He comes across very genuine and sincere, and he'll say like, oh, the pandemic really hurt my company, and so, you know, we had to make some decisions, and, you know, maybe some of them were bad, but they got this all worked out, and they're getting money, and they're going to pay everyone back, and all the wrongs will be made right. Well, okay. And so like, here I am still almost kind of believing this guy. But if I think about it, and I think about business and how things worked with the pandemic, I have a feeling that they've been doing this far before the pandemic even started. And because they were forced to shut down, they weren't selling these supercars fast anymore. And it's getting harder and harder to cover up the money hole that they're in. So that's just my opinion, but it looks like it. And if it quacks like a duck, and looks like a duck. So I don't really know where all this is going to go. I made this video to just show I'm just one of the faces behind all these, you know, crazy transactions that they're wrapped up in. And I'm making this video because they're not responding to my calls or emails, and I do want everything in writing at this point. Actually, since January I have, and so this is in hopes that they're gonna let me know what's going on with my car, and I hope that I get it back, and I hope that it gets fixed, and I hope that I get the registration and that the bank gets the title, because this is incredibly stressful, and I mean, I don't even know what to do at this point. I'm just asking for help. If any of you know what I could do in this situation, other than everything that I've already done, I'm just not wanting to be out, you know, all of this money and having to promise to pay back my bank, because I did partially finance this. And so I'm like, I'm making payments on a car I haven't even had more than a couple days in my garage. And that it's a sucky feeling, man. So I just shake about this every day, and I'm just so distraught, and I just want help. And so if this video finds itself, you know, in front of Clay, the owner of CNC, please, where's my Ferrari? And I don't think that you have the money to even fix it. All of that has just been a scam on your part. I think you're just holding on to it until you could figure something out. And I want my car back, and I want the title, and I want the registration. And if my car does belong to somebody else because you took my money and never gave it to them, I want you to give them the money so everything can be released and put into my name. I don't think that's too much to ask at this point. So that's my story. Thank you for listening.